You know what? It's interesting. It hasn't really felt like that in the sense of you're so busy, you're just doing the job, right? You're coming in and you're recruiting, you're coaching, you're networking, you're doing all that stuff. I said that to somebody. I think one of the big full circle moments for me, although I kept in touch with them, was spending some time with Coach Haskins out in Las Vegas at the Summer League and just sitting with him, talking to him for a little while. It's kind of a full circle moment for me, you know. And I told Coach, I said, doesn't feel right when I'm down in Williams Arena and I'm sitting in your chair in your office. I said something doesn't feel right about that, but that was a really cool moment for me. That just kind of looks like, wow, you know, I'm back and I have the job of a guy in a situation that I just admired so much.
How's he doing?
You know, he's sharp as a tack. You know, he still follows it closely, like everybody. You know, he struggles to get around a little bit that way, but you know, once you get him going, you know, he sounds like he always has.
Niko, you recruit these guys, and now you've had them in the summer. What does the roster composition look like to you now in terms of all the things you look for? Length, speed, athletic ability, smarts, playing together. What's your evaluation? How do you have a chance to really see them?
Yeah, you know, I one thing sounds funny that what I've really been impressed with for as many new guys, I mean, almost an entire new team, is how hard they've worked every day. So just they've really come in with a great attitude and work. I really like some of the versatility. Got some guys I think who can make shots, who can do some different things. So I really like that. It's so hard for me at this point to really have any feel for how that's going to stack up against our competition. And we're not even really worried about that. We're just worried about ourselves. But, you know, so far I've really liked how it's come together and some of the versatility and things that it looks like we'll be able to do this season.
Niko, you talked about implementing the offense first. How have they picked up some of those principles that you're trying to implement?
Yeah, you know, that's been the majority of what we've done is the offensive stuff. You know, like I'll show them today when we go into film quick. I think there's some things that, you know, it's hard for them to see when every day, you know, they're doing this stuff. But, boy, I think for as much as we've asked of them, I think they've really done a good job of figuring out, you know, how to move, how to cut, the terminology that we have that's different probably than any place that they've ever been. I think that's been a real positive of this group so far in this month. So, yeah. It's been great for him. He's been awesome. And I think he's really kind of taken that to heart. And he can be a quiet guy by nature, but, you know, we've moved him around the floor. You know, all the things that we're introducing, he gets the luxury of having to be the guy who goes out and shows everybody else how to do it. That's been great, you know, and I don't know what we do without him, you know, to be honest. But he's really embraced that role of kind of being the one guy who kind of knows what we do, and he's been terrific.
Niko, now that rev shares kicked in, you had some time to try to build up the NIL. How would you say you guys are on that front?
You know, like I think I've said before, I'm really appreciative of the commitment I believe the university is making to men's basketball. And I think everybody understands that it's time to elevate this program back to where we all think it can get to. And so I think we've come a long ways. You know, are we where we need to be yet? No. But it's somewhere in the middle. You know, I think we've been able to move to a place where we feel like we can compete in situations maybe they couldn't compete before. But now our job is how do we move to where we can compete with the best? We're not there yet, but I think we've made a significant jump.
Are you at the point where you're starting to see roles now, or is it too far away from the start of the season?
It's too far. By the way, great shirt, Graham. They come in like, yeah. It's a little too far away. I mean, I you know, I think we have some depth, you know, at certain spots, and I think this is a group that maybe we can play a lot of guys. But it's a little too early for that. You start to have ideas of what it could look like, maybe who can play where on the floor, who plays with each other. Can we play a smaller lineup? Can we play a bigger lineup? But I'm a little ways away from figuring out roles yet.
Because it's now harder to recruit because you're looking at tapes more than anything else and trying to put a cash value on them, and yet you got to go to some AAU tournaments. what's it like for a coach? I hear some support.
It's just different. You know, it's interesting. Like, we're always going to recruit high school players here. We always are. But it's funny. I was talking to Dusty May about this at Michigan, and you know, right now, this time of year, before all this stuff happened, the high school recruiting was everything, right? I mean, it was make or break. You had to get these guys, or there was no other avenue. Now, I think maybe programs recruit less high school guys. They probably have a group of guys that they really like, and then if that doesn't work, you also have the transfer portal. So it's really changed maybe a little bit of how we look at this time of the year, but the spring is different than anything you've ever been through before. But I still think, Mike, you still have to try to get the same information that you had before about these young people, their externals, what makes them tick, are they a great fit for you, do they love basketball, are they going to be somebody that's going to buy into what you expect from them. And I think we've been able to do that, and the most successful programs have, even in a short period of time. You can't just rely on film. You got to do your homework.
Is the junior college thing going to really up the Big Ten too? I mean, you start getting players at age 20, you know, with no eligibility.
Yeah. I think, you know, like you said, you can't be afraid to go anywhere to find a player that you think can compete, you know, at the top level of the Big Ten. And it'll be interesting to see where junior college goes. I think maybe it took a little bit of a dip, but maybe it's something, you know, that will take become more of a precedent here moving forward.
How's BJ coming along?
What's that?
How's BJ coming along?
Good. That's a great question. You know, BJ had a procedure he had to do when he got here. He's making great progress. I think he'll be cleared here relatively soon. He's doing a little bit more on the court. He hasn't done anything yet live, Ryan, you know, but I feel pretty good about where he's at. I'm really happy we did what we did, and I expect him being ready to go in the fall. You know, first of all, I think he's got a chance to be a terrific player. I do. I think he's got a chance to be a real front-level Big Ten guard. He's an unbelievable human being. I mean, of all the guys that I've coached that have played at the next level and helped us win, he's got all that DNA in him. So, Minnesota guy, unbelievable human being, talented, was the one guy that had played minutes last year, right here in the Big Ten. So, day one thing for us. And it's really cool that it didn't take long for him to say, Coach, I'm all in. I want to be a part of this. So I'm really thankful we have him.
Has Johnsonville shown attributes to be a number one type player?
Yeah, I mean, he's grown tremendously, you know. But again, I think like with a guy like him and Isaac, it's going to be cool because I think those two are going to play together a ton. So I think having those two guys on the floor that can both make plays, score, it's been kind of fun watching those guys develop.
Niko, when you look at just this, July 31st, and you see all the media here, does that reignite the fire that says, you know, this has kind of been a sleeping giant, it feels like, that people are waiting for to get back to where it was?
I feel that. I just, and again, maybe it's my perspective, having been here for so long, but having grown up here, but it's there. I mean, I think people really care about Gopher basketball. They want it to be great. The people who followed it for years have great memories of when it was really good. And I think the time's now. I just think it's a perfect time for us to find a way to reignite that again. But it does, Mike. It's a great question. I go around town and I see it. There's really an interest and a care factor about our program. I think people are just waiting for something to get behind, and you know, it's our job to build that.
One thing that wasn't here when you were here last was this facility. Has that been, now that you're kind of into a routine, what's it been like to work on it here?
That's awesome. You ask what's eye-opening. I mean, think about now. You know, back when the bar, you couldn't even practice in the summer. There's no AC over there. By the way, I talked to Bill Self. We were comparing Fog Allen to here, and he's like, do you practice at Williams Arena in the summer? And I'm like, it's hard because there's no air conditioning. Fog Allen has no air conditioning either. So even Kansas doesn't practice there in the summer. So having this right now, it's unbelievable. It's a one-stop shop for our athletes. They live right across the street. I think it's massive. I'm grateful every day we get to work in this. I think it's among the best in the country of what we get to do. And I get everybody talks about NIL and all that stuff, which is nature. But having this facility, I think, really helps us from a recruiting standpoint, and it helps us to be able to do our job every day. I mean, it's hard because, you know, there was only so much we could do with the non-conference schedule. You know what I mean? When we got here, so we'd prefer to have, you know, some more opportunities, but our hands were a little bit tied. You know, we tried the best we could at the end, but, you know, having said that, you know, hey, we still got some challenges on our schedule here. You know, I think the one thing that's unique for the first year, we can play Division I opponents in exhibition games. So that's a new thing NCAA put forward. Used to have to do closed scrimmages. So I think that's going to be cool for our fans. You know, we're going to have North Dakota State, you know, come to the barn to play exhibition, open to the fans. It'll be like a regular game. Those are opportunities that we didn't have before. So we tried to talk to a lot of the different local teams about doing that. So that's one thing that's different. We really tried to get a game in Sanford Pentagon. You know, really tried to get we tried hard to get a Power 4 opponent. If you guys can help, we called everybody in the country now, so don't think it wasn't for effort. Heck, we tried to get Florida here. Now, having said that, we're going to play San Francisco. You may all not understand that. San Francisco is pretty damn good, so it's not a name that everybody recognizes, but that'll be a hard game. But that's hopefully a relationship we can continue in the future, because I think that's a cool spot, maybe to play a neutral game for some of your fans that don't get to see you play all the time.
Niko, you talked about kind of assigning value when it comes to revenue share. How did you try to do that for different players?
I think it's different this year, just because you still had that NIL piece that wasn't regulated. I think that's going to become more of a factor moving forward, right? As we all kind of get our, you know, cap and rev share, we're going to have to figure out percentages for all these players, but everyone's still trying to figure out how the third-party NIL stuff is going to factor into all this, and I think that's an ongoing process.
Niko, over the years, the elite high school player in the state hasn't become a Gopher. What's it going to take to get into that territory?
I mean, keep selling what we're about. Again, I'm starting to feel that stuff here out in the local community. I think we got a lot to sell here. I think we have a track record of guys coming to our programs, winning, getting to the highest level if they want to get to the NBA, playing in a system that they love playing in, that's conducive, you know, to them growing and developing the player. I think we've got a great culture that guys want to be a part of, and it's just continuing to sell that. You know, and so we got here, you know, we've really made an effort to do that, to try to get the best guys, but they got to be the right fit for us. I think the other thing people have to understand is no one in the country is recruiting as many high school guys as they have in the past. So sometimes there might be a good player, but maybe because of numbers or fit, it's not something you can do right now. But I feel confident we're going to get there. I look at what PJ's done, you know, right across the way. Didn't necessarily happen for him right away, but man, he just kept chopping wood, selling, and now look at it. You know, all these guys from around the area want to come and play for the Gophers, and we're going to get there too.
Niko, on roster construction, how much of an emphasis is put on shooting? It seems like you have a bunch of guys that catch and make three-pointers and shoot the ball at a pretty high level.
As a great coach told me once, and you'd probably know who I'm talking about here, Coach Haskins, he said, Niko, you can run all the pretty little plays you want in the world. At the end of the day, better have a guy who can ring the bell, all right? So I mean, you got to get some guys who can make shots, and I think we've been able to do that, get some guys who can make shots, and shooting's a huge premium here, and I think we've got some guys who can put it in the basket. Now, it's a lot different put it in the basket here against our GA in a workout than drilling it with a hand in your face at Mackey Arena in January, but we'll see where we're at.
Niko, how's the health of the rest of the team, and then kind of what are the next steps after today?
We're doing fine. I mean, there's always Nicks and Bruce. I mean, if you don't, some of these guys, this is the last day of the summer. If they're not feeling it right now, they haven't been going hard enough, you know? So it's the last day. They're ready for a break. They've been working really, really hard. I think they've picked up what we want. I think they're having fun. And I want them to be excited about coming back in the fall here. And I think we've accomplished all that.
All right. Thanks, Phil.
Anything else? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.